Welcome to an edition of In the Chute. I'm Brandon Carpenter, and with me is my esteemed colleague and oldest son, Kalen. Kalen, what do you got today?
Thoughts on the horse community. So normally people think horses are awesome. They're a fun thing to do, but then there's also the community that comes with it, much like CrossFit. If you are a CrossFitter, you will tell people you are a CrossFitter. If you are in the horse community, you will tell people you got a horse. So with that, what are your thoughts on the horse community? And then we're normally the gated horse community, but there's also others. There's quarter horses, thoroughbreds. Then there's of course the racers down in my area that I'll be at in a week, Kentucky, Tennessee area. What are some of the thoughts and the things that come up with horses and the community that surround them?
That's an interesting. I mean, there's so many things there
Yeah.
that you could unpack on that. Just the very nature of what you brought up like that is uh clickish clicks. My horse breed is better than yours, and it's the only horse breed to have. So there's that, and there's so much ego. There's a ton of ego in I think it's like, because for most people horses are more like a sport or an activity. They're not for a
Mm-hmm.
lifestyle. you
Mm-hmm.
know Even rodeo, I mean, rodeo is a sport, and there's
Yep.
people that are building their uh entire activity or careers around a sport. And so we all know that most sports come with large egos. It's about, hey, I can do something better than you. So there's a lot of that. Same thing with trainers. You get people that are, you know, decent trainers and they got an ego. You got people that are crappy trainers, but they think they're great trainers and they got an ego. And, this is the way you do it. And it's the only way you do it because this is the
Well,
way I do it,
and
and
disciplines
it's
too.
ludicrous.
We've talked to people with different disciplines like
Yeah.
dressage, for example. I'll just throw that out there. It's a specific discipline with the horse, and because that person, it would be like mixed martial arts. Because I do karate, I am better than everybody else. No,
Right.
I do taekwondo. That is so much better than everybody. Well, I do Brazilian jiu-jitsu, and like it just goes down the line of the.
Yeah. Ford
And
Chevy.
yeah, it's the
Yeah.
same
No,
thing.
you're right. That's the part that's I mean, it just gets old. And oh, what do you do with your horses? Oh, well, we endurance ride our horses. Oh, good for you. Yeah, your horses wouldn't do that. Well, no, our horses have been in endurance and done very, very well in endurance. So it's all about the thing that, well, whatever I'm doing is better than yours,
Well,
and
and
it's just, it gets old.
I think that's the issue I have a lot of the times with the horse community is very rarely can I sit down with somebody and have a beer with them and have a frank conversation of, hey, what do you think about this? Or what do you think about that? Whereas I have done that with other cattle producers and people that I grew up with. And we talked about that with cows.
Right.
we talked about that. Hey, how do you guys do things with your, your herd management, your ratio cow to bull? What's your crop rotate or your pasture rotation on those animals, all sorts of things like that. Hey, what are the things when you go to look for a bull, what are you looking for? Or how about, hey,
Right.
how often do you go purchase outside cows? I can have those conversations and we're not judging each other, but then I can have that. I've had this too, the exact same person, and we switched to equine and it completely turns the opposite way. I'm like, well, that didn't turn out so well. I thought we had a good thing going there, but I guess not.
Well, yeah, and it's about perspective, and I'm glad. And one thing I will say is most people who have a horse, they love their horses.
Mhm.
That's a great thing.
It's like a giant dog.
Yeah, it's a fantastic thing. So there's that end of it, but none of us have an exclusive on all knowledge on horses. I don't care who you are. Excuse me. But um the ego sometimes gets in the way of people, and I think the difference between your conversation with the cows and versus horses is people are willing to listen to you with a horse if they have a problem that they need solved. And they
Okay.
can't do it, and they'll ask you, and they'll bend your ear about it. And then I've had them say, well, that's not going to work. Well, then why did you ask?
Right.
So or I've done this, I've done that, and they're trying to tell you what and they're looking for help when it's all done. Well, I just don't think that's going to work. Well, okay, why? I just don't think so. I was told that wouldn't work. Then why are you asking me? So um, it's very odd. It's a very odd thing. Very. There's a lot of jealousy
Yeah.
that you see between different disciplines or breeds or abilities or whatever. I mean, um, there's no for the training perspective, I guess that I'll preface this with. There is no certification for horse trainers. I mean, you don't have to be
Right.
anything. If you're in some kind of a certification program, it's because somebody's built a program and they're taking money from you. So it's not like England or Europe where there's a very strict way of doing things, and you build through this apprenticeship type of thing.
Well, and that's very much
But
traditional, is it not?
it is, but it's very, very specific as well. And
Hmm.
so I think overall, we in the Americas have a much better discipline on our horses. Not all, it depends. I mean, it's a very wide brush painting thing to say, but um, we've got a lot more people, I think, training horses in a variety of disciplines. And I think our horses are probably
Mm.
have a wider variety of uh, a
Diversification, is
subset
that what
of
you're saying?
well of tasks and things that they are trained from. So we don't just do things, this is the way you do it, and you don't deviate from that. We'll try everything. And so I think that's a good thing. I mean, there's a lot of really good trainers in the States, but there's no certification for it. So anybody can say, hey, I'm a horse trainer. And what have I said? What makes you a horse trainer?
Do you interact with horses? Because you can either make
Exactly.
them worse, make them better, or keep them the same.
That's what a horse trainer is. The
Yeah.
horse doesn't know any different. The horse has no idea what your skills are or whether you're getting paid to play with them. So that is really all there is to horse training. And the perspective of that is from the human perspective. Am I being paid for this? Does this guy train? Does he train for free just because he likes it? Is the guy crappy but charges a lot of money? The guy charges a lot of money, has a nice barn, but never rides the horse, and we're just paying for boarding. That happens a lot. Oh, I'll keep that horse for 60 days. And then 60 days goes by and they've been on him a dozen times. And they go, they're not quite ready yet. Another 30 days, you're going to have to pay me. And they get ridden another, 10 times. And they're going, oh man, I got to get this horse cranked out of here. Because they're probably going to be like, I'm not going to pay for another month, but maybe I can squeeze one more month out of him. So now you got a horse there for 4 months, 120 days for a, 60-day training. So that
Right.
there's a lot of that goes on. I mean, I'm glad that horse people like their horses. I'm glad that they do things, but they are very cliquish. If you're not part of the right crowd, you'll never get recognition. Fact is, people will badmouth you. It's amazing the badmouthing that goes on between people. And I'm very proud to say we don't do that. We don't badmouth individuals. Nope. Because you know what? They've probably done some very good things with some of their horses. We may know who they are between us
Yeah.
because we've seen, but we don't do that. But it's surprising how many people do that. And it's it gets around, you know who they are, what's said. And oftentimes what they have said is absolutely completely false. They have no idea what they're talking about.
Well, and I think a lot of the frustration I've learned from you and grandpa growing up was oftentimes um where we may not agree with others for certain reasons philosophically or whatnot, there's still something that you can learn from them, just like anything else. You watch an
Yes.
athlete. I always go back to mixed martial arts because there's so much diversification in different traditions and ways of learning how to do a combat sport and bringing it all together into a competitive fight. You see different guys do things and suddenly you start seeing people steal ideas, and it's
Sure.
not really stealing. It's just, oh, you can glean something from them and go, oh, that's a good idea, maybe I can incorporate that.
Why
I
not?
see that very much the same way with horses and cattle, anything like that. But it seems as though whether it's a good 90% good, 10% bad, or flip that 90% bad, 10% good. There always seems to be people that follow personalities. There's three personalities
Yeah.
off the top of my head that I can think of, and it's nothing against them. But I just don't just necessarily agree with everything they do. And people that follow those personalities, much like they would a Kim Kardashian or a Tom Brady or a political figure like Bernie Sanders or Barack Obama, something like that. People fall in line with those personalities in the horse community, and they think it's this way or the highway. And I'm like, well, it doesn't have to be that way. And I think, at least from my perspective, I've seen where it seems like that cliquish behavior originates from that. And I don't know if that's coming from those individuals and those personalities, or if it's the people surrounding them that perpetuates that thought process that it has to be one way or the other.
Well, I think there's a lot of ego in validation of what I'm doing, right?
Yeah.
So
I think
if I'm
everybody's
doing,
got that.
yeah, absolutely. I mean, if we didn't have that, you wouldn't crawl on the damn things,
Yeah.
and try to get them to do what you want. I mean, a big, powerful animal, and we've all got that ego, but you got to put that ego aside a little bit. And hey, when I was younger, shit, yeah, I had a big ego about it. And what did it get me? Nothing. So maybe at times I probably could have trained something better had I paid more attention to what somebody else was doing. So your point about your analogy with the mixed martial arts is very, very, very good. That's very well taken, because there's a lot of stuff I've taken or gleaned or stolen, and there's some things we've made up, some things that just made sense. And I don't train any two horses exactly the same way, because I'm watching what the horse needs. I don't have a program that it's like, oh, you always have to do this. The horse needs to be able to do something at the end of it, but how you get there is another matter. And we're not beating on our horses, we're not restraining our horses, we're not abusing them, running them to death. We don't do that. We're trying to build a relationship with them, and some people don't do that. Some people like to be very dominant, dominating, and so when they have that kind of that what I call a Hollywood approach, and people see that and go, "Ooh, that's pretty cool. They're bucking that horse out. That's neat," and they follow that, like you say. You get kind of these. They're kind of like roadies and
Yeah. Called buckle bunnies.
yeah, buckle bunnies, or just people that they don't know quite as much, but they admire what's going on, so they follow that and they say, "Oh, they're doing that, and they do well,
Yeah.
so that must be the only way to do it." And
Oh
it's
yeah, I
instead
see.
of
It's almost like they get that celebrityism and they go, "Oh, this is the
almost,
way to do it." Yeah.
yeah, and even at the local level, there's that. People locally that people just adore because this is the way it's done, but it's I don't know. There's some people that, well, some people won't even argue either, which is good. I've got no issue with that, and I think you kind of get, when you're respected and when you're not, and regardless of what you've done, and there's some people that have got zero respect. In fact, is one individual I know, she badmouths me a lot and has never ridden one of my horses. I don't think she's ever seen one of my horses being ridden, but she's got a giant ego, and but there's others I've walked into been in a store, and I hear a couple of guys talking about horses. You just hear them talking next to some rack or something, and you walk around and they see and they just stop talking, and it's like, okay, well, geez, I didn't mean to interrupt, but they didn't. They know who you are, and they just quit talking because they don't want to be embarrassed, I think, or something, and they don't want to ask. But it's okay, hell, I'll help anybody if they want to ask, and I don't have all the answers,
Right.
but neither does anybody else. So yeah, those are kind of some of the things that I love. I'm glad we have horse people. I love our horses. I think everybody else loves their horses as well. But you know what? None of us know it all, and our horses aren't the only ones in the world either. So yeah, kind of get over ourselves.
I agree. Open up your minds, enjoy the horses, but don't be mean, folks. Let's all just be friends. All right, with that, we'll put it out to pasture.